Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the invisible magic that makes the internet feel instant. We're talking about caching.
Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at why slowness is such a huge problem. Then, we'll introduce the simple, brilliant idea behind caching, see how it actually works, and finally, reveal just how massive its impact really is.
All right, let's dive right in by talking about something we have all felt. That deep, primal frustration with a slow website. So, what's the deal? Why do some sites feel like they're stuck in molasses? Well, it's almost never one single thing. Instead, it's a bunch of tiny little delays that all pile up into one big digital traffic jam.
Okay, let's imagine an e-commerce site. You click on a cool new pair of headphones. Behind the scenes, the server has to run around making all these separate trips to its main database. One trip for the product name and price, another for the pictures, a third for the customer reviews, and every single one of these trips adds a few more precious milliseconds to your wait time.
So all those little trips add up to 200 milliseconds. Now you might be thinking, 200 milliseconds, that's a fifth of a second, that's crazy fast. But here's the thing, in the world of websites, our brains are wired differently. Studies show that any delay over 100 milliseconds starts to feel, well, sluggish. So we're already double the speed limit for what feels instant.
And listen, this isn't just about you being a little impatient. No, this has huge real-world consequences. A slow site means people just give up and leave. For the business, it's a nightmare. Think about it. 1,000 people looking at that same popular pair of headphones could create 5,000 identical requests hammering the database. This forces companies to waste money on ridiculously powerful servers, and even then, they risk the whole site just crashing and burning during a big event like Black Friday.
Okay, so that's the problem. How in the world do we fix this? Well, the solution is actually beautiful in its simplicity, and the best way to explain it is with a good old-fashioned office analogy.
Picture this. Your database is a giant metal filing cabinet way over in the corner of the room. It can hold everything, but man, it's a pain to get to. Every time you need a file, you've got to get up, walk all the way over, find the right drawer, sift through the folders. You get the idea. Caching is like having the brilliant idea to just keep the 10 files you use all the time right there on your desk. Instant access.
And what's so cool is how perfectly this analogy maps to the real tech. Your desk, that's the cache. Super fast, but not a lot of space. The filing cabinet, that's the main database. Slow, but it can hold everything. Those documents you use most often, those are the popular products on the website. And the whole smart system is built around two key moments. A cache hit is when you find the file right on your desk. A cache miss is when you have to take that long, slow walk to the cabinet.
Okay, so we've got the big idea. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the rules of the game that make this whole system work so incredibly well.
First up, the cache hit. This is the jackpot. It's finding that file right there on your desk. The request gets answered instantly, and you never even had to bother the slow filing cabinet. This right here is the whole point. This is what makes a website feel snappy.
And then you have the cache miss. This is when the file isn't on your desk. You're forced to make that slower trip to the database. Now, it's not a disaster or an error or anything. It's just a delay. The entire game is to make sure this happens as rarely as possible.
So what's a good score in this game? Well, a really well-designed system is aiming for a hit rate of over 90%. Think about that. That means 9 out of every 10 requests are being served at lightning speed.
So how do you hit that 90% mark? With a super simple but absolutely brilliant strategy called cache aside. The rule is simple. Always check the fast place first. Always check your desk. If the data isn't there, if it's a miss, then okay, you go to the slow place. But, and this is the genius part, you bring a copy back with you and put it on your desk for the next person who asks.
Okay, but wait a second. What if the information changes? You know, like the price of those headphones goes down or they run out of stock. You definitely don't want to show old, stale information. That's where something called time to live, or TTL, comes in. It's basically just an expiration date. You tell the system, hey, this copy is only good for 5 minutes. After that, it gets automatically thrown away, which forces the system to go get a fresh copy from the main database.
So, we've got the analogy, we've got the rules. Now what happens when you unleash this simple idea at the scale of the entire internet? Well, the results are absolutely mind-blowing.
We are not just talking about a small improvement here. This is a fundamental, game-changing shift in the user experience. It's the difference between something that feels slow and clunky and something that feels truly instantaneous. Let's go back to our e-commerce site for a second.
That sluggish 200 millisecond load time? By caching that product data, the response time can absolutely plummet, down to just a few milliseconds. In some cases, it can be 60 times faster. I mean, that is an incredible speed boost.
And the poor, overworked database, it gets to take a vacation, a long one. Instead of 1,000 users all hitting the database for the same thing, now only the very first user does. The other 999 get the super fast cached copy. That's a 99.9% reduction in the load on the database. It's staggering.
And you know what less work means, right? It means you save a ton of money. Since the database is basically chilling out most of the time, you can run it on much smaller, way cheaper hardware. We're talking about saving up to 90% on infrastructure costs.
And believe me, this isn't some secret technique just for startups. This is the absolute bedrock of the internet's biggest players. Facebook uses it to pop your newsfeed up in a blink. Netflix uses it to make sure your next episode is ready to go. Twitter relies on it to load your timeline, and Shopify uses it to survive the absolute chaos of a massive flash sale without crashing.
When you really think about it, caching is the unsung hero of the internet. It's this silent, invisible workhorse that closes the gap between our very human expectation for speed and the actual physical limits of computers. Without it, the web as we know it just wouldn't work.
So, we've solved for speed. Things are fast, super fast. But making data access fast actually reveals the next big challenge. What do you do when the sheer volume of the data itself is the problem? Well, that is a question for our next explainer.